This video and the goodness inside of it is sponsored by Rocket Money. Understanding finances and getting into the nitty-gritty of where my money goes interests me greatly. If I can find ways to be more efficient with my spending, cut out the fat in a way, it'll make things easier. Life throws a lot of curveballs, and managing your money is huge in all aspects of it. With Rocket Money, it's a very useful source to put all of your finances into one easy-to-digest and understand app. Instead of having to scramble to a million different websites for information, it's all for you here. What I found fascinating is how Rocket Money will negotiate to lower bills on my behalf. If it can save me a few bucks on my SiriusXM subscription or Verizon bill, I'll absolutely take it. It can help me set budgets for spending, so if I go over it, I'll be notified. Plus, it's always nice to get a view of your credit score when needed. 3.4 million people use Rocket Money to get a handle on their finances, and you can too. Go to rocketmoney.com/tree to get started for free or unlock more features with premium. Financial management is a crucial aspect of life. And if you can get a tool to help you, then why not take advantage? Now on to the video. Baseball season is upon us again. When pitchers and catchers report, a special feeling is in the air. The renewal of hope. The World Baseball Classic showed us that people crave the aura of the game, but can Major League Baseball capitalize on it? There are many new rules put in place in an effort to speed up play. Extreme infield shifts have been banned, forcing two infielders on each side of second base. Bases themselves have become larger, some comparing them to pizza boxes. And most importantly, a pitch clock has been implemented, eliminating significant dead time. To mixed results so far. Baseball is trying to evolve with the times, but will it work? And is it necessary? For the teams in MLB, it's a mixed bag. Last year was one the Orioles are hoping is a taste of things to come. A young core starting to emerge, finally free of endless cycles of futility to nearly make it to postseason ball. This time, they look to add to that fine resume. I just felt that they'd try a little more this offseason. Regardless, with reinforcements in pitching and more top prospects on the way, they can truly be ready for October. And it can't come at a better time. The Angelos family's going through a bit of a feud about the team. Endless squabbles over who will loan and when Peter croaks, rejecting a lease with Baltimore to hold the city hostage for more stadium upgrades, the works. At the very least, the family dropped the lawsuits with each other. Thank the Lord we can focus on the real priorities. Watching Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson hit bombs. Oh, if there was a team that was this close to having its fanbase reenact the Boston Tea Party, it was these guys. Shedding Bogarts, Martinez, Eovaldi, and more doesn't leave the Red Sox faithful with images of comfort. They get fears of a sequel to the Mookie trade. Rafael Devers being traded for a loot box of prospects and players nowhere near his caliber. Fortunately, Fenway Sports Group had been visited by three spirits, mainly fans who threatened to break their legs if they didn't re-sign Devers and promptly paid him accordingly. It's a markedly different squad from last year's flop. Japanese sensation Masataka Yoshida, a ton of aging stars hoping to regain glory, former Dodgers in Justin Turner and Kenley Jensen, and hoping that Chris Sale can somehow, some way pitch more than a month without injury. He'll have to make up for Trevor Story's long-term outage in some way. Yes, this group does reek of assumed mediocrity, thanks for asking. Maybe they'll surprise again, but I'm not holding my breath. All rise for the return of Aaron Judge to the Bronx. Yankee Stadium was on the verge of being burned down if they failed to keep Judge in the mix. But fortunately, thanks to Hal parting with his much-desired money and a John Heyman mistweet, court remains in session. The goal for the Yankees is crystal clear. Finally overcome the dreaded Houston menace. Return to the World Series they've so desired for almost 15 years. There's a few problems with such lofty expectations, however. Cashman refuses to let go of the Donaldson and IKF experiments. Most of their pitching acquisitions have experimented in horrific injuries over a fortnight. Scott Efros undergoing Tommy John. Frankie Montas dealing with a lingering shoulder issue until at least July. Tommy Kahnle out for a month. Carlos Rodon with a forearm ailment. Lou Trevino, you get the point. Here, though, all eyes are pointed to the future. Anthony Volpe, who should make his debut this season. Maybe they'll let Oswald Pereza play more than 3 games at a time. Another hot streak by Oswaldo Cabrera? If any of them unseat Donaldson or IKF, they'll have parades for them immediately. Last year was a nightmare that will not be discussed. Let's pretend that it got injured like most of the team did and leave it at that. In theory, the Rays should be a formidable foe that strikes fear in the hearts of their enemies. Think of a full year of a healthy Wander Franco and Randy Arozarena. Think of Shane McClanahan dominating hitters every start. Think of a chorus of unsung depth rising to the occasion to lead Tampa Bay to another playoff berth. It's very realistic to think. Older pieces, cherished ones even, are gone. But new faces will emerge, and that's always been the key to the Rays' success. While a strong season is all but a given, the questions for Tampa Bay have always been off the field. And now a new proposal has been floated out there. They will move away from the mess in St. Petersburg to St. Petersburg. I only hope this bad idea clogs up like the bridge traffic to the Trop on game day. Will the Blue Jays finally realize their sky-high potential? We all know of the elite talents that ooze throughout the roster. Big boppers, superstars, past champions, Cy Young winners, the legend of Alejandro Kirk. You can dream about their future, but there have been endless landmines hit in this quest. Mainly in the great joke that will be rubbed in their faces for the next 6 months at least. Can this group overcome such a debacle? Will their talent supersede the issues on the roster? My main concern, and it's a lot of people's as well, pitching depth. The Jays don't have a lot of it. Mainly throne money being burned into the wind like no tomorrow. Jose Barrios' talent dissipated up here like Hyunjin Ryu's health did. Maybe Vlad was right in a way. This is a movie we're watching, but it's a self-inflicted tragedy. Jerry Reinsdorf needs to be taken away from his executive suite and sent to a retirement cigar bar. In 3 years, the White Sox went from a promising upstart with playoff potential to one of the most infuriating teams in baseball. How often they waste prime talent with ass-backwards managerial hires and schemes. How penny-pinching and archaic thinking ruins seasons left and right. Mr. Reinsdorf, Minnesota and Cleveland are building for playoff pushes. They're investing significant resources into their farm systems and free agency. What will you do to respond? Only sign Andrew Benintendi and Mike Clevenger. Great. That's totally gonna move the needle in your favor. I refuse to support anything from this group besides Liam Hendricks kicking cancer's ass. Wake me when Reinsdorf dies or chooses to invest in his team properly. Right now, it's about as empty as Yasmani Grandal's performance. Nothing makes me fantasize about a world where Cleveland overcomes their past reputation like their team pitching. Watching every piece of that group dazzle with incredible stuff in command is a treat. And we can only hope that their success will continue in a stronger AL Central this season. Well, we hope it'll be stronger. The quandary for the Guardians has been the same as it's been in seasons past. The arms will be excellent, but this group only goes as far as their bats take them. Jose Ramirez is a headliner, and a promising core started to emerge last season, but it needs more depth. Maybe Josh Bell and Mike Zunino aid in that quest. Maybe it'll come from the farm system, but it's the only way they'll evolve from a second-tier suitor to a legit contender. I'll be interested to see how it plays out. Just don't disappoint us, please. Coming this year to Detroit, one team's endless struggle to find any sense of meaning continues on, picking up the pieces after the bumbling reign of Alavila. Perhaps this will be the beginning of a core that's been sorely missing since Mr. I passed. Or maybe it'll be another miserable slog like last year was. All you can do is wait and see. Pray that anyone promising doesn't get injured to hell and back. Yearn for someone that can hit over 275. Hope that the struggles of top prospects were merely blips on the radar instead of something else. And the farewell to a faded legend as he moves towards a future in Cooperstown. All of this and more in a fantastic season of Tigers baseball. I would say it'd be a hit, but like the team, it won't. Like a certain team in Detroit, Kansas City is also trying to pick up the pieces from years of mismanagement and complacency. The Dayton Moore era brought them a World Series, but it's been terrible ever since. No sense of direction, no real plan besides hope that Bobby Witt Jr. and Vinny Pasquantino give them an identity. Where's their support? Will it come from a pitching staff that finally stopped serving up meatballs? Is the immortal Zach Greinke going to whip them back into shape? This is a team that's still rebuilding-ish. They've been forced into one, but the results aren't there. The Royals need to show us something. Anything. Just for their fans to simply feel something. Dare I say the T's were the surprise of the offseason. They were at a crossroads. A brutally disappointing season with key pieces potentially on the way out. An uncertain core with injury issues. There were more questions than answers for them. However, that would all change with the biggest swerve since Hulk Hogan turned heel. Carlos Correa rejoined Minnesota. It had to happen kicking and screaming and with a massive pay cut from his original offers, but he's back! As long as those physical concerns are overblown. Adding Pablo Lopez for the rotation is a huge get as well. And they have intriguing upside in a supposedly weak division. Can they stay healthy, though? Byron Buxton is one of the best players in the game whenever he's on the field. Correa is as well. Was part of the reason why last season went to hell in a handbasket. The only way the T's regain legitimacy is if they win a playoff game. Not even a series, just a goddamn game. They know this, and they'll do anything to get back. Even sell their souls to do it. The payment to the succubus has allegedly been paid. Another World Series, this time without apparent major scandal, has been won. Despite the moves and dealings of those around them, Houston looks to be major players in the AL once again. Jose Abreu brought in as an upgrade at first base. Not to mention a strong portion of their core is back in the fold with more on the way. Losing Verlander does sting, but they have enough pitching depth to be able to survive. I would offer more support, but there happens to be a concern thanks to the World Baseball Classic. Daniel Bart's most accurate throw was towards Jose Altuve's thumb. He's going to be out for at least 2 months. The Astros have obviously been through a lot worse, but it has me wondering if this is merely the beginning. Crazier things have happened in baseball. We should know. This is one of the darkest days for the Angels in a few months. One of the few bright lights of this franchise was the fact that Artie Moreno was looking to sell the team. His constant meddling and surprising cheapness was severely hampering their potential. All of Anaheim was ready to celebrate the departure of a villain, only for that same villain to appear behind the curtain. Artie is no longer interested in selling. Unfinished business, he claims. There are many more hearts to crush in his desire to stay below the luxury tax. Shohei Ohtani, cherish him while you can. This will most likely be his last season donning the halo. Do you seriously expect Artie to pay him? Or swallow a shitload of Anthony Rendon's contract? Absolutely not. You'll get patchwork to give the impression that they're trying to do something to help. If you thought he was cheap before, just wait until that 9-figure RSN deal the Angels have goes belly up. He'll turn into John Fisher so goddamn fast it'll put Shohei's exit velocity to shame. The great Oakland fire sale continues on with haste. When they say total liquidation, they mean everything worth a damn must go. Sean Murphy and Cole Irwin, thank you for your service, but there's more payroll to shed. A bare-bones operation where the only thing on their mind is a relentless tank for a better tomorrow. The question is, where will that tomorrow be located? The Howard Terminal proposal is taking way too long. It should have been done by now, but roadblocks keep getting thrown in the way. Money issues are stalling the deal, which has Rob Manfred not only doubting a deal will be done, but has him stating the A's are starting to favor Las Vegas. The hours before a team leaves a city are usually the bleakest, and I fear that we may be near that point with the A's in Oakland. I hope to God I'm wrong, but enjoy the tank while you can. We have entered a new age of Mariner baseball, a time where they finally got into the nightclub known as the postseason. Not only making it to the dance, but outright humiliating an opponent before a national audience. The introduction to what the rest of the baseball world has at least experienced unleashed a hunger. Mariners will rise from the deep to claim a stake of legitimacy. Rising star power with Julio Rodriguez and Logan Gilbert. A strong chorus around those men being added to with Teoscar Hernandez. Hoping that Scott Service has learned his lesson with pitcher deployments. They already know they can make the playoffs, but can they go further? Can they avenge their fallen ancestors on the diamond? All of this to answer the real question on everyone's mind. Will this be the year that Jarred Kelenic finally adjusts to big league pitching? A Texas tradition as old as time itself, where many high-priced free agents come to Arlington to claim fantastic fortunes for their services. Hired guns and elite stars aplenty flock to the Rangers to secure generational wealth and unfulfilled expectations. They're still waiting on the Lighter and Rocker show to develop in the minors, so instead you'll get Jacob deGrom, Nathan Eovaldi, Jake Odorizzi, and Andrew Heaney. If they can't develop a big league rotation, they'll buy one. History has shown us that usually tends to backfire on the Rangers, but you can't fault them for trying. They've been irrelevant in the baseball world for over half a decade now. There are still too many holes on the roster to take them seriously, but when your rivals stock up and load, you must follow suit. Will this be the year they finally break out and return to the greatness that they once embraced a decade ago? Will everything finally piece together for them this time around? Probably not, but that's nothing that throwing more money at everything can't fix. 3 cheers for Liberty Media and their financial savvy. Making gobs upon gobs of cash, plus having all of their core locked up long-term on team-friendly deals? That's some shrewd investing. Adding to it with a Gold Glove winning catcher in Sean Murphy, and then extending him to another team-friendly deal? That's a win to me. Dansby Swanson is gone, unfortunately, but they've got pieces to replace him. They'll find somebody like Vaughn Grissom that comes out of nowhere in the minors. It was a necessary departure. With how brutal their division is expected to be, any sort of gain will be appreciated. Perhaps Mike Soroka will finally return from years of frustrating injuries and rehab. They're still a very young team, and the hope is that they replicate last year's performance. Not the series against Philly, mind you, but everything else. There's a part of me that doesn't get what Miami's doing. I get the logic of what they're attempting, but the execution leaves a lot to be desired. What's the main issue with the Marlins right now? Hitting. How do you fix it? Go and get players that fit dire needs. The likes of Gene Segura, batting champion Luis Arraez, and Yuli Gurriel. Gurriel's nowhere near what he was, but he'll help with the Cuban fanbase. With their elite pitching core and more pitching prospects on the way, they'll be a masterclass in that aspect. Now where's the power coming from? There's nobody here that profiles as a strong home run hitter. We all know their bats are what's going to hold them back from what they could be. And there's not much they can do. When ownership goes cheap, you have to get creative with your deployments. Such as playing Gene Segura at third base, and moving Jazz Chisholm to center field. That's a bit of an unorthodox move, don't you think? Love him or hate him, Daddy Steve will do everything in his power to secure a World Series for his team. It's respectable. Not only does his fan base enjoy an owner who isn't a complete sheep-ass, it causes a bunch of other team owners to get their panties in a bundle. Look at the arsenal he's assembled on his team. Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander, Japanese sensation Kodai Senga, Edwin Diaz, Brandon Nimmo, and Jeff McNeil extended long-term. And more. Falling apart in the final few weeks of last season has caused the Mets to double their efforts. And the goal is World Series or bust. Going deep in the playoffs will not be enough. Daddy Steve's spending has assured it. When you have a $300 million payroll, nothing else matters. Too bad these are the Mets. There can be no joy whatsoever. Edwin Diaz followed the same road Kendrys Morales took before him. Injured during the World Baseball Classic while celebrating a win. Torn patellar tendon. Out for the season. Well, the acquired Jose Quintana's out long-term too. Good lord, this team really is cursed. When Dave Dombrowski smells blood in the water, the spending shark in him goes haywire. He needs to strike with precision. Star power is an addiction that must be quenched. A World Series appearance out of nowhere has confirmed his course of action. The bells of free agency must ring. The hitting core is full of power and skill, but it's missing a piece or two. Know how you fix that? Trey Turner. Back in the NL East on a mega deal to terrorize his opponents yet again. In pitching, old stars, men who flash brilliance, and more. Craig Kimbrell, Taijuan Walker, Gregory Soto. They were so close to a championship last year. The time has come to load up and compete with the best once again. It'd be nice if Nick Castellanos could rebound to form as well. I still have questions about their pitching depth, and their bullpen has some red flags, but if that star power shows up, they'll be fine. Until Rhys Hoskins tears his ACL on a non-contact play. God damn it. Radioactive fallout from the nukes litter the fields in D.C. All that remains from blowing up the team are what resembles a championship trophy, prospects in the fallout shelters, and the unrecognizable ghouls that once were Patrick Corbin and Steven Strasburg. Strasburg's cry is that of pain, suffering another setback in his recovery, and now his career's in jeopardy. In the destruction that had happened, they come across a body in the rubble. That would be their owner, Ted Lerner. He has died at 97, and rumors of his trust selling the team off continue with haste. It's going to be an ugly, ugly year of trying to pick up the pieces. The only thing that'll warm you at night are memories of half a pitching staff in 2019. Tom Ricketts has said that this team is capable of competing over the last year or so. That hasn't really gone to plan. And from what it appears to me, the Cubs are still about 5 pieces away from making any serious noise. It's not like they're not trying. Adding the likes of Dansby Swanson, Jameson Taillon, and Cody Bellinger signify that moves are being made, even if they paid Swanson too much. An improving team, but lacks high-end power. They're doing what they can to replace the old core. I just don't know if they're anywhere close to it. Not only are they doomed to straddling the 500 line for most of the year, they'll be forced to watch Wilson Contreras in a Cardinals uniform for the foreseeable future. All you can do is pray things start to come together. Cubs fans don't have another 100 years to wait for another World Series. All that you need to know about the Reds is that Phil Castellini hasn't the slightest clue of when to keep his mouth shut. He pissed off the fanbase last year with his tone-deaf comments, and he did it again at a fan luncheon. Foot directly in the mouth. He didn't know the group he was speaking to was an acronym. He compared his team to a non-profit, spent more time whining about baseball economics than on the state of his team, and had a slideshow prepared of how most teams are out of the playoff hunt by opening day. What he told the fans was this: It doesn't matter if you like Joey Votto or the intriguing prospect pool, there is absolutely no reason to follow this team. But it's okay in his eyes. The Reds are making progress on a 100-loss season. God, shut up, Phil. Just shut the fuck up. Seems like they keep running into the same issues over the past few seasons. Outstanding pitching, outright spoiled with the riches they have in the rotation and bullpen. However, like a certain team in Miami, their issues have always been inside the batter's box. Will they get enough hitting to make them a relevant franchise? They got a few extra pieces in Jesse Winker and William Contreras in the offseason, but there's nobody here that screams elite. I don't think Christian Yelich is going to go back to his prime form, unfortunately. And the next Ryan Braun isn't coming up from the minors anytime soon. They have solid pieces, but not much else. Something tells me danger is afoot if it doesn't change. Worse, they effectively pissed off Corbin Burns in arbitration hearings. He lost his case, and he's still bitter about it. Imagine being so cheap that you're squabbling with your ace over a few $100,000. No wonder why David Stearns left. He didn't want to have to fight over pennies due to the RSN issues. When a team is deep in the tank, it feels like the years take an age. Pittsburgh yearns for some semblance of progress. Something to signify that they merely aren't on another 20-year hamster wheel. It doesn't look good. Brian Reynolds and the team are still at odds, and no team wants to pay up for what the Pirates desire. It feels like the team with Ji-Man Choi. Awkward and apprehensive. They're still trying to find themselves. A bunch of vets are placeholders, and the best prospects are at least a year away from reaching the show. So Pittsburgh needs someone to put asses in seats. No, not just O'Neil Cruz and his piss missiles. I got it. Kutch. Bring him back home for his twilight. The bobblehead giveaway for him will get so many people to the ballpark it'll be a boom. An era is over in St. Louis. Albert Pujols and Yadi Molina have begun their trek towards their final destination in Cooperstown. And the Cardinals will cherish their legacies for time eternal. But what about now? Who replaces them? I figured Adam Wainwright was going to join his battery mate in retirement, but he's still kicking. And despite doing little in the playoffs, Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado are back to kick some ass as well. Arenado staying put here for a long time to come. Another demerit to Colorado. It won't come as a shock to anyone that St. Louis will be in contention for the division title. The question is, how good will they be? They have to get Jack Flaherty and Jordan Hicks back to form. There shouldn't be much of a leadership void with the presence in their locker room, but Oli Marmol has to evolve as a manager. His deployments were kinda clueless last year. They get those improvements and they should be ready to go for October. I think. My personal sleeper of the National League. For a team that I thought had no real direction or sense of belonging a year ago, they've become a very intriguing option in a land of haves and have-nots. The form they found near the end of the season shows me that there is more that could be here. Watching Zach Gallen blossom into an ace with top prospects making their debut and Ketel Marte back at second base, Evan Longoria's veteran influence, something tells me the sun is starting to shine again on Chase Field. If they can ever get the roof cables to function properly. My main concerns with the Diamondbacks are twofold. First, I believe they need more time to mold into their own. The team is very young, and development is a high priority. Second, I fear that window will be short. Look at how quickly they dismantled the team after coming into their own in the late 2010s. That's why I'm cautiously optimistic. I just don't want to get burned again. This team should contract. Baseball as a whole would be better off for it. We could replace the Rockies with a real baseball team. One that wouldn't use Coors Field as a glorified bar for 3 months out of the year. One where they won't run the team like it's a mom and pop that rewards knowing someone instead of talent. But we can't have that. Instead, we get to watch Chris Bryant attempt to clone Nolan Arenado's production for 50 games and hope Brendan Rodgers manages to even play this season. As they still do nothing to fix their situation, winning has never been the goal. It's about being competitive. Dick Monfort says that the Rockies could be a 500 team this year. I look forward to the 68 wins they get in reality. There comes a time when a team must pay for a long run of success. Years of paying an exorbitant luxury tax has finally grown tiresome for ownership. They'll take their COVID Cup and spend the year reloading from the farm system and other teams' cast-offs. It's how they made their bread for this past window. And while shedding a ton of depth and skill to get under the tax threshold is frustrating, the Dodgers are still a mighty fine team. Just not one that Dave Roberts can boast will win a championship before a game is played. Their strong core is still intact. New veterans have been brought in as depth, and the farm system is still as excellent as ever. As I said, it's merely a reloading year. One where they'll be contenders again. as long as Freddie Freeman's hamstring issues aren't nagging. And if guys like Evan Lux don't tear their ACLs before the season, oh boy. Last year's run saved AJ Preller's ass, and the Padres can finally taste what has eluded them for a long time. A World Series. They finally beat LA. They were this close to glory, but were undone by a goddamn bell and middle-aged men on a morning show. Peter Seidler wants to win, and like Daddy Steve, he will do everything he can to build a champion. The time is now, and rewards are needed to be given. Yu Darvish extended until he's 42. Sander Bogarts brought in as another elite infield option. Manny Machado wants to opt out, he says? Well then give him what he wants. The most inspired moves are usually made when you can smell victory. Plus, they might get Tatis back this year if he's not a complete fucking idiot again. Besides the infield logjam they've created, there is going to be one question to ask for the future, though. Tatis or Soto? Or both? Seidler is eager to spend a shitload of money, but is he willing to reach Daddy Steve numbers of luxury tax payments? It's a tempting proposition. We've all experienced the Tinder or Hinge date that's gone awry. You have your hopes up for a nice evening. Maybe you might even get lucky if the cards fall right. However, you're the Giants. Your dates ditch you after a few minutes and then block you from every app. We can relate to San Francisco. They dreamed of Judge Rodon and Correa, and all they got was an awful physical and a tweet about arson. Instead, they get mere consolation prizes attempting to develop depth and improve their god-awful team fielding. They shouldn't be terrible, they have too many good support pieces to be that, but in this division, how do you get past LA or San Diego? Even Arizona will give them a run. 2021 was such a fun time, but it seems so far away for this group now. Too many question marks to take them seriously this time around. Quite the shame, really. This is the part where I make terrible predictions and you tell me I don't know a damn thing. It's a tradition as old as time, and I'm too prideful to simply give up on it. The American League is hard to tell in spots, especially the AL East, where I'm barely leaning towards the Yankees due to more proven talent, but will somehow lose to Houston in October. The AL Central I'm giving to Cleveland, if only because of that incredible pitching and the unproven nature of their division. The AL West, do I even have to say it? It's Houston. The wild cards are harder to pick. A lot of choices to make, but I'm choosing Tampa Bay, Seattle, and Toronto. The National League? Same hard choices. The NL East? Who do you pick? I'm going with the Mets, but I can easily see the Braves as well. The NL Central is still St. Louis's territory. For the NL West, a bold choice, but I think San Diego finally overcomes the LA menace for the division. Dodgers take first wildcard spot, though. The other two will be the Braves and Brewers. It's tough to choose sometimes, you know that? I'll hear a lot of shit, but that's the name of the game. Play ball, fuckers!